Right, so this section is looking at the sort of outcomes of the stages of this initiative. So the first question that I wanted to ask was, what were the biggest challenges in implementing wearable technology in a port environment?
So for me, it was actually trying to work with the companies who offer these solutions to make it applicable in the most efficient way for us at the port. You know, they are not aware of what we do or how we do it at ports. And actually, we all have such different operations in ports that there's no one size that fits all. However, there are common roles. Most places have a weighbridge or a gate. A lot of places will have a team that come and handle the lines. We pretty much all have some sort of machine operator on site. And there's always some management in there, and all of them have different elements that you can check and look at, depending upon what that wearable solution is. So in terms of implementing it's designing and getting that project right. It's then rolling that out with good communication, getting the buy-in right, and ensuring that you've then got a process to feed back to the team so that they can see the value and understand what's been learned. Um, if we don't do that piece and complete the sort of PDCA cycle and give the feedback, we are not doing our job properly. Um, Even if it's just a trial, you can learn a lot of things very quickly from something like this as well. And then the bigger question is whether you're going to take that further, whether you're going to take that into a long-term agreement, or look at taking this solution on in its form, or helping develop it further so that it works for you and your port.
I think that one size fits all approach isn't something that works for physical health, mental well-being. I think when you've got such a wide scope of physical health traits that can appear throughout diverse diverse workforce, I think it's really important to sort of acknowledge that. I guess that's where data is particularly important as well. And
Yeah,
I do
data
suppose,
data
yeah.
can't tell you diversity necessarily, and
Uh,
you know, and that's good because we can see sort of by combining data from different people or similar roles, we can get a feel and an understanding of how that whole role develops, and look at those trends. So it's getting that balance, and you've got to design those trials so that you are looking at what questions you're trying to answer, not just looking for give me data and we'll see what happens. It's got to be something you're looking to get out of it.
of course. Were any of these challenges unexpected, or were there any unexpected learning points along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've talked previously about getting the communication right and talking to people, but one of the big issues is making sure that they know how to switch on the sensors if it's something that they're using. Equally, if they don't want to use it, how to switch it off. Um, we had wearable watches that have turned up. They've got a charging cable but no plug. How do we make sure that we've got the right equipment to the right people, and we know that everything's in the right place? And equally, if someone's wearing a watch, how do we know it's the right watch that should be collecting this person's data, or that role's data, rather than they've picked up the other one that's on the shelf that was charging and thought that's the one. So human behavior, really simple things around technology, all the daft stuff that can go wrong will go wrong. So you got to be prepared for that. But again, good communication, letting people know that they're not daft if they have this issue, or the clip doesn't quite work, or they're not charging it right. It happens, and we're all very, very fallible to it.
Yeah, of course. I think especially if it is a sort of new And I guess that's the point of having a trial. It addresses these sort of issues. Yeah, it definitely was unexpected, but it is a learning point, and I think it's important to
Oh,
appreciate that.
if it can go wrong, someone will make sure it goes wrong. So,
Yeah.
how many times have we seen radios dropped in the water when we're doing something? You know, it's gonna go wrong at some point.
Um, and what are the sort of key questions ports should be asking before introducing wearable health technology, should they wish to?
So it's got to be, what are you trying to get out of it? You've got to try and understand it. You can't sort of go into these trials without having a problem you're trying to fix. Once you've got a problem, you sit down, you say, right, that software or that piece of wearable or combining both gives us data that can support us in making this better, or understanding where something's not as good as it could be. So you've got to sit and make sure you understand what you want out of it. The wearables around our team who have sat in the same position for long periods, it's very easy to sit in a chair for a long time, feel tired, and just stay in the chair rather than get up and move. We've implemented sit-stand desks and risers to try and make sure that we're keeping that movement going. But are people hunched? Are they not? You know, we want to understand that, and that's a big piece of one of the wearable use cases that we're looking at. The other one was very much, writing um, a risk assessment around MSD issues and concerns is very difficult because you've got multiple forces working in different directions, and therefore you've got to be able to get some data, but that data alone isn't necessarily any good unless you've got a video to show the team what it actually means. You know, many of our quayside operators do not want to sit there and look at a data stream or a graph. They want to go, oh, what does this actually mean? So we've got to make sure the output of it is also going to be aimed at the right level and be able to help them understand and make changes to improve what they need to do.
And I suppose it's much like physical health impacts organizational levels differently. Same with mental well-being. The sort of output that you get, it depends on the audience you're trying to target with it. So making sure that the communication on that sort of level is correct for them and is engaging, and in order to make sure that the sort of messages we're trying to get out are appreciated.
Absolutely. And, one of the big pieces around all of this is when it comes to the mental health side, none of us should be waiting for data to show us if someone's in a sort of at-risk state or a more distressed state. We all like to think that we know our teams. We all like to think we know the people who work with us and around us and for us. But if you don't know who that person is and you don't understand what might or might not be going on with them, you can't ask those really simple questions, just checking in, checking who they are and how they're doing. We shouldn't be waiting for data to show us if they're in a stressed or at risk period. But that data can be used to make sure that we understand when that's more likely, when certain people might be better at hiding it and not showing us what's happening, and how we can then redesign jobs or roles to better suit and prevent that from building up.
Yeah. So I think it goes beyond the sort of proof that this sort of thing exists, because it certainly does exist. It shouldn't be the reason for taking any action. It's more of a preventative approach or something that supports the approach along the way.
Yeah, and it's definitely, as we've spoken about before, a good way of starting to have those conversations and layer in protecting staff and getting them to understand we want them to be able to be their best person at work. We're not here to make life really hard for you. We want you to perform, we want you to do your job well. Um, if you are able to do that, and we're able to get rid of some of those things that people might not speak about because they just think it is what it is, then it really helps us have those discussions, and data makes it less personal, and you don't feel you're being picked on as a person. If you raise some of these issues, you can say, look, data's showing us that this bit's a real stressful area. Can we look at redesigning work or changing things to make it better for us?
So, how do you think boards can ensure that initiatives like this genuinely support workers rather than it sort of becoming a tick box exercise?
You've got to go into it in the right mindset. It's got to be something that is led by a team of people. It can't just be an individual on their own going out and doing it. You've got to have the right support above. You've got to have the right support below. You've got to have that communication and trust. And that comes from other work and taking your time to do it. If it becomes a tick box, it's annoying. It's frustration. It's another thing that management are enforcing on me, and that whole, you know, manager versus worker thing becomes an issue. And at that point, it does become this view of, you're spying on me. You are making sure that I'm doing all my work. I'm, not spending half my time in the restroom, or, all these silly things. So you've got to have that relationship before you do it. And you've got to have that clear idea of why you're doing it and what you're doing it for. We shouldn't be asking our teams to do anything additional and unnecessary. So it's got to have a really well designed plan around what you're looking for and how you're going to get that out.
And I'm sure it's much like the data itself. It's not something that you're doing to sort of gain proof that this is something that exists or place blame. It's more to support or a preventative approach. So, and it shouldn't be looked at as something that solely sort of encourages action on physical health or mental well-being. I think having, again, looking at it like a sort of multi-layered complex, things like factors like healthy eating as well, how much exercise a person is doing, um, even going back to the basics, like how many cups of tea are you having in a day, how many soft drinks are you having, they all sort of factor in, and providing that sort of support and guidance and having open conversations around those topics is very important as well.
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest factors in all of it is sleep hygiene and nutrition. How do we support our teams to understand what that actually means? you know, a lot of the time we leave people to work it out for themselves, and we don't have conversations about this. It's in the soft, nice bit. None of us are experts on it in the port industry, really. But actually, we've got to start considering, how do we share that information? How do we get that through to people? Yeah, I'm a big football fan. The days where footballers would go out and have a pint after a match, and you'd see them in the pub half of the time. They're well and truly gone at the top level. And when you get to that level, it's, how do we have the right mattress for the right player? What sleep pods have they got? What meals do they need? What weight should they be targeting? What gym routines are they doing? That's not really part of their job. That's how a club looks after their best assets, which are their people and their players, in a multi-layer element. Their job's to go play football and to go score goals or stop goals going in. We should look at it as that holistic view, and how do we give people the tools to come to work and be their best selves.
Of course. All right. I think that was all of the questions for this section. Thank you so much. I will stop the recording.
No worries.